Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
They have great players. They've got great players up front. And they've got as good a skill position players in the secondary. Well, we knew all that, and we knew it was a tall task going in. But I never felt like it was going to be the way it started out.
At the end of the day, man, I'm really proud of our football team. A double-digit win on the road, a lot of mistakes. We really grinded it out when we had to. A lot of grit in this team tonight. Offensively, 570 yards of offense for the sixth game in a row.
And good afternoon and good evening, everybody. Welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Monday night from our studios downtown Columbia, we begin another beautiful week of Sports Talk with you all together. Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and the Professor Tom Hayes. We had a busy weekend. I took in USC football, USC basketball, Clemson basketball over in Greenville. Pro took it all in as well, some of it in person, some of it on his couch. And K-Mac was up in Syracuse to see the Tigers take down the Orange and stay undefeated and remain number one. We'll take your thoughts on all that and more. USC Clemson kickoff time is set for noon on the 28th. We'll start looking ahead. Why not? They both have opponents this week that will not generate a lot of excitement, which is typically the case the week before the rivalry games. We can start talking about the rivalry game. I am happy to dive into that. Start with your predictions, your comments, your Clemson-Carolina jokes. We'll start rivalry week a week early here on Sports Talk because we can. 800-956-7266. There is USC basketball tonight, so if you lose us over the airwaves, you, of course, can stay with us on our website, sportstalksc.com, audio feed and video feed, and, of course, you can get us streaming via iHeartRadio or also through the TuneIn app. So find a way to stay with us should you lose us tonight for basketball or any other reason. K-Mac, the Tigers, more of a struggle. They were a 30-point favorite. They had a battle to the end.
They did. They had to fight, scratch, and claw to get out of there with a victory. Although I'll say this, Syracuse made it a heck of a game, but you never got the feeling that the Orange were going to spring the upset. You never had the, oh my gosh, Clemson might lose this game. Their season might go down the toilet here. They tied it up at 14 after Clemson scored 2 touchdowns in the first 2 minutes of the game. Syracuse rallied and tied it at 14, but Clemson came right back down, scored a touchdown, and it never got any closer than that. Syracuse had the ball a couple of times with a chance to tie the game down 7, but they weren't able to do it. And Clemson, when they needed to make a play, they made a play. When they needed to get a stop, they got a stop. And usually they needed a play. Number 4 was making that play for them. What a game for him.
We should have seen a slight Florida State hangover anyway.
Yeah, maybe
Dabo said there was no hangover. They didn't play well.
Right.
His point is, we stunk it up a little bit. Still won by 10 points.
All of a sudden, the Clemson defense, though still highly ranked, is having a hard time with the quarterback on the option and the gash run up the middle. We'll be back in a moment. Hey, our phone number 800-956-7266. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com and on Twitter @SportsTalkSC. That's how you can communicate with us tonight and every night here on Sports Talk. We'll open up the phone lines here for you in just a moment. Go ahead and jump on board, grab a line, get your thoughts about the weekend past. USC having its opportunities against Florida after playing dead, really playing dead for 3 quarters, and then like a zombie, they came to life in the fourth quarter, really, and put a big scare into Florida. They needed 1 third down, one more third down stop, and they gave up a 53-yard run, and then Florida scored, and that was that. Had they gotten a stop, they would have forced a punt and would have had the football with a chance to tie or win the game, which has kind of been their case, their situation, now 3 weeks in a row.
But when you're losing and you make a 4th down stop, that other team gets that little extra inch there to get the – because I thought it was a bad call. I thought they stopped them on fourth down when the game was, 7-0, Florida.
Yep.
And that, boy, you don't know what that would have done to that team. But they came down and Florida –
because Florida went right down and scored and then scored again. That seemed to kind of take the air out of their balloon. And you had the interception that went for a touchdown for Florida. The USC defensive back, that was
Chris Lamont. Instead of batting it away, he tried to
look like he had the ball in his hands. The guy just snatched it from him. That went for a touchdown. You're right. Losing teams make plays like that or get the breaks like that. And that's why the Gamecocks are 3-7 and 1-7. Boy, the
clinch last place in the
bad
SEC.
old days, the bad old days, or is it bad old day? That's the thing. All right, you've had a bad year. So if you're South Carolina, what you've got to do is keep it singular. You can't let it become plural, so it's the bad old days. You got to keep it as just a bad old day for this year.
Auburn did it. Florida just did it. Will South Carolina be the third to – because it's
but Auburn's back to the bad old day.
That's what that's because –
by the way,
on a serious hot seat.
Georgia fans, are y'all still firing Mark Richt?
Probably. No. They'll fire him
as
after
of
winning
today.
10 games.
Oh, my gosh.
Georgia fans need to look up Phil Fulmer and remember that name about running off a coach that is winning, that you don't think's winning enough, and thinking you're going to get another guy in there to win more.
Apparently, Mark Richt fired a not so, how can I put this, subtle shot at people that's wanting's gone. Because the quarterback next year he's recruited has already signed his papers, right?
Correct.
Okay.
He signed his financial aid.
After Georgia won the game,
he went and had a picture taken with him. Yeah,
he flew out and had the picture taken and had breakfast with him. As if to say, I ain't going
He's
nowhere.
supposed to be the next savior quarterback for Georgia. I mean, he's a talented guy in high school,
no
apparently.
Pressure. No pressure.
But Bryce Ramsey was a very highly recruited guy. He might still, the problem with the whole recruiting thing and the star system and the expectations is now you don't have a chance to be a freshman or even be a sophomore and learn the game and learn the position. If you don't produce right away, people like us and people who listen to us as fans and read newspapers and the internet and watch television, they think you're a loser. They think you're overrated. You're never going to rushing these people. We're getting kids now to leave school, to leave high school early. It's their call. Nobody's putting a gun to their head. They want to get their college lives underway and get their college football careers underway. And then if you're a quarterback and you're a 5-star and you were in the Elite 11 and all that kind of nonsense, you're expected. It'll be like Brandon McElwain. If he comes to South Carolina and steps on campus in January and goes and competes in the spring, he'll be expected to be almost perfect and be the guy right away because he'll be reputation-wise head and shoulders above every other quarterback on campus.
Well, here's
I'm not saying it's not fair, but it's the way of the world now in college football.
Here's the interesting thing. Other than his recent troubles, 2 best quarterbacks in the NFL right now, I still say Aaron Rodgers and the gentleman in New England. Guess what both of them did? They sat for a few years before they took over. Now we see quarterbacks just drafted number 1 or whatever, and you force them right in there. How many years of struggle have they had since some never recover.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes it does take, some guts for a coach to sit a player. But now because of all the money and the pressure, you can't even sit a freshman quarterback.
You got to play him.
Speaking of nunchucks, I saw this because Travis Haney, national writer for ESPN, tweeted something about it, and I followed his lead and looked this thing up. I'm not going to name the website because I don't want to further embarrass them, but I mean, there's a USC website out there that has its people riled up because one of their folks wrote that he had direct knowledge that Clemson assistant coach Jeff Scott had talked with Houston coach Tom Herman and had not positive things to say about South Carolina in that conversation. Mm-hmm. And the inference there to me is tried to sully the waters there between Herman and South Carolina, allegedly, according to this. Now, and of course, the readers of this stuff, they take it at face value and suck it all in. And of course, now they're ready to tar and feather Jeff, et cetera, et cetera. Now, first of all, you got to look at something logically. The writer to say he has direct knowledge, that means he either got it from Jeff Scott or Tom Herman. And one of them told him directly that this conversation took place. I seriously doubt that occurred. Number two, on the surface, I mean, Jeff Scott, why in the world? Now, I know that there's a relationship between the Clemson coaching staff and Herman because they visited with the Ohio State coaching staff either last year or 2 years ago, I believe, when Urban Meyer took over at Ohio State. Within the time Urban Meyer has been at Ohio State, the two staffs had gotten together for a conference to talk football. So, they probably know each other, may even be friends, may have a relationship. Who knows?
And Herman was on the staff when Clemson played Ohio State in the Orange Bowl a couple of years
ago. So they may know each other. They may know each other.
Functions down there.
But to me, it is a big stretch to think that right now, while his team, the team he's working for, is number one in the country and trying to win a national championship, that Jeff Scott would take a timeout to either call or receive a call from Tom Herman, and make the effort to disparage South Carolina. Here's how that conversation would go in my mind. I'm Jeff Scott talking to Tom Herman. Yeah, Tom, South Carolina, they really don't have very good facilities over there in Columbia. Well, wait a minute. They just spent $100 million or so upgrading their stadium and building an indoor practice facility and building new practice fields. Forget that. They can't win in Columbia. They can't beat us. Oh, wait a minute. They beat us 5 out of 6 years. They won 11 games in a row, 3 years in a row. They really have an ugly campus there in a floundering city. Oh, wait a minute. They're building new academic facilities, new dorms, new residential complexes all over the city. My point is, what could you say that would be disparaging about South Carolina?
Jeff Scott lived in this city and worked in this city. Well, here's the thing.
Wait a minute, Tom. You're not going to make any money at South Carolina. Oh, yeah. They only pay $4 million a year for their head coach.
But they could have communicated. I mean, coaches communicate during the season, and assistant coaches. So they could have traded text messages, and maybe Jeff said, hey, I heard you mentioned that South Carolina job. I was like, yeah, what do you think about it? Not much. It could have been something very small, innocuous even, that somebody finds out about, and you're playing this bad game of, no pun intended, telephone, and then it turns into Jeff Scott's bad mouthing the South Carolina job. And coaches don't do that. They really don't. They encourage it. Rivalry. It's an intense rivalry. But the bottom line is, if Brent Venables, there's a Clemson fan that emailed me and said Brent Venables would never take the head coaching job at South Carolina. I said, why? He's too loyal. I was like, these guys are professionals. He wants to be a head coach. He would take that job. He absolutely would.
They're mercenaries. I mean, they're going to go where the money is.
Just like Clemson would fire Brent Venables in a heartbeat if he didn't do his job well. The loyalty only goes so far.
Anyway, I don't believe any of that at all, and we'll be right back. While we're talking about the USC situation, we updated our who's hot, who's not board today, and don't have any earth-shattering news to share with you. We pretty much have cleaned the board out except for Tom Herman and Kirby Smart from what we picked up over the weekend and today. That just appears to us to be where it's at right now. Now, again, the one wrinkle thrown into this whole thing is Missouri and what could happen with Missouri and Herman. Now, if Ray Tanner is well down the Herman Highway and
I like that.
you like the Herman Highway. You like this even better? Is ready to become a Herman's hermit.
Just stick with the highway there.
But if not, he could go get smart. Worked on that today.
That'll work.
Anyway, for those of you who are too young to know, Get Smart was a television show back in the
They've watched the
60s.
reruns. Yeah.
Jack
Anyway,
Webb did some fine work.
Herman, the relationship with Herman and the AD at Missouri.
Just a facts, Corn.
That could be an issue. That really could, unless again, Tanner's far enough along with Herman that they have an understanding. I don't know if that's the case or not. I'm just throwing that out there as a supposition. And then there is Kirby Smart, who, my goodness, he's got the Alabama defense playing great football right now. Now, again, timeline-wise, I think Ray, as he said after the Spurs done in December and have a coach by then, I don't know if that's possible because of the fact that right now, Alabama's playing on December 5th. You could probably hire Kirby Smart and announce him that week as your new head coach, and he could coach for Alabama and nobody would be upset. He could probably coach for the national championship game, and nobody'd be upset. You couldn't do that with the head coach of a team.
No.
In the case of Houston, and this could be a telltale sign. This could be, I'm just throwing it out there. If nobody's announced the week after the Clemson game, that could be a pretty strong indication that it's going to be Herman, because if he's playing, he still has to beat Connecticut. He still has to beat Navy.
That's a big one. Yeah.
That'll be a big one,
Yeah.
to get to the AAC championship game.
I will say this. It was interesting to see, and I thought that Herman went to the head of the class in my mind, not that he won Saturday, but how they won. They were 3 scores behind, and they put in a backup quarterback who really was not the backup quarterback. He was the 3rd-string quarterback that they turned from wide receiver, and they never deviated from the playbook.
Yeah.
That to me was amazing.
Well, he obviously has an excellent system. One thing he did inherit was a quarterback who could run that system at Houston. And, if
But
he
wasn't
comes
in the game.
I'm saying he got hurt, but I'm
Right.
saying that's why they are where they are.
Yeah.
He has an excellent quarterback who can run that offense. Again, if he comes to South Carolina and if McElwain shows up, he'll have a quarterback who can run the system.
And he knows how to recruit quarterbacks. There's like 9 of them at Ohio State that he brought there before he left.
And he knows McElwain from his days at Ohio State.
If he's
He
got
visited
a
Ohio State.
wide receiver backup quarterback that wins, he could turn Nunez into a quarterback.
We'll be back in a moment. Sports Talk here on a Monday night, 800-956-7266. If you want to join into the conversation, email talkback at sportstalksc.com, and the website is sportstalksc.com. On Facebook, Sports Talk Radio Network, and on Twitter, it is at Sports Talk SC. Several other things to pass along to you today. Let's see, where do we begin? We told you about the Clemson USC kickoff time will be at noon. And Jordan Leggett from Clemson named one of the 8 semifinalists for the John Mackey Award today. Also, Deshaun Watson was named the ACC Offensive Player of the Week for his performance against Syracuse. Big South Players of the Week, Charleston Southern receiver Nathan Pereira, Coastal Carolina quarterback Alex Ross, co-offensive players of the week, and Coastal defensive tackle Jabari Bothwell, defensive player of the week. Charleston Southern punter Truett Burns is the special teams player of the week. The FCS rankings for this week, Coastal Carolina by the coaches is at number 4. Charleston Southern is at number 8, and the Citadel is at number 24. Jacksonville State is 1, followed by McNeese State and North Dakota State. And by stats ranking, Coastal Carolina is number 4. Charleston Southern moves up to number 9, and the Citadel hangs in there at number 25. NCAA men's soccer bids came out today. Clemson, a number 2 national seed, 29th all-time appearance in the tournament for the Tigers, and they will get a first-round bye and will play the winner of the Elon Winthrop game on November 26th at 6 o'clock. USC also win the tournament for the 21st time, and the Gamecocks will host a first-round match on Thursday against Furman. Gamecocks are 11-7-1. The Paladins are 8-5-5. Stadium in Columbia. Coastal Carolina is in the tournament as well, and the Chanticleers will play North Florida on Thursday on the Coastal Carolina campus. So that is it for
they have blue
the
turf
tournament.
on the soccer field.
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
I think they've got regular turf.
Also, the other winners this weekend has to be the concession people at the 2 women's games. They had just under 17,000 at the women's game Friday, and a meaningless UNC Greensboro game. I shouldn't say meaningless, but it was 13 in the house on a Sunday afternoon.
That's great.
Unbelievable.
Newberry football was invited to the Division II tournament. Congratulations to Coach Todd Knight. They'll be the 7th seed in Super Region 2 and will play at North Alabama on Saturday. So this is the second time that Coach Knight has taken the Wolves to the NCAA tournament. Good luck. North Alabama is always very, very strong. And I think that is it as far as the major news notes. Tonight, USC takes on Oral Roberts. Both teams 1-0. The Gamecocks beat Norfolk State Saturday night 84-69. Perry Dozier, or PJ Dozier, Perry Dozier Jr., PJ, boy, he he's the kind of player that your Dukes and your North Carolinas, your big-time programs, Kansas, they have like 7 or 8 of those kind of players. He's just a smooth basketball player. There's, he can do every aspect of the game. While you might surround him with athletes who do certain things well, rebound, block, or shoot, he's just smooth. You can just tell he's got the complete game. And he had a good game against Norfolk State. Got a little foul trouble and sat some, but still had a pretty good game for his debut, not counting the exhibition game. 7:30 tonight, that game over at the Colonial Life Arena, and it will be televised on Watch ESPN. And also in college basketball tonight, involving state teams, College of Charleston playing Navy up in Annapolis. Upstate and Presbyterian playing over in Clinton, Voorhees at South Carolina State, and we mentioned Oral Roberts in South Carolina. You got the next showdown in the Palmetto. What are we calling it? The Palmetto Series? Is that what we're calling it? The competition between USC and Clemson? No, that's the football game, the Palmetto Bowl. It's the what are we calling it? Palmetto Series?
Yeah, Palmetto Series.
Is that what it is? Palmetto Series? The women play. USC and Clemson women play on Wednesday night at Jervey Gym. That place will be packed to the rafters. Clemson women 1-1 after losing to Coastal Carolina on Sunday. As Pro mentioned, the USC women, they were winners big on Sunday. All right, Brent Venables, Clemson's defense, all of a sudden a little bit under siege after giving up 27 points to Syracuse. And the option game, the quarterback had his success in the option game, his success against Clemson, 206 rushing yards for Syracuse, make that 242 rushing yards for Syracuse. Didn't throw it well, but 322 total yards for the Orange. And afterwards, Venables realizes that he's got some work to do with this defense to kind of get that edge back and get them back to where they were.
When they were trying to run left, that kind of caused you to be outmanned.
We were out leveraged time and time again. Just got their little tight end, got outside of us, pinned us, and continued to get outside of us. Obviously did a terrible job getting them ready. You don't continue to have those problems time and time again and be doing something right. You're not doing anything right. That continues to happen. So did a very poor job of getting our guys to understand, and who the guy that's supposed to play the quarterback. And time and time again, he got outside of us, missed some fits, huge fits early. I just did a bad job, obviously, getting them ready to play.
Was part of it that them doing stuff that you weren't ready for or expecting?
No. They run the zone, read option, split zone, split flow. No.
Have you seen them run that much option just over and over?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They're going to do it when it works. So, yeah, they run it all kinds of different ways. Yeah, we worked hard on it. So, you'd like to blame it on, we weren't ready. Well, obviously, whatever we had ready wasn't good because we didn't do a good job defending it.
You mentioned Shaver's penchant for running AAA special teams. That big punt, obviously, you had converted with the pass interference call, but was that something you were prepared for? On the lookout?
Well, that exact one, no, but we knew they would definitely fake it. We've said it all week, every day. We worked the trick plays, and so they're definitely going to fake a field goal in the punt.
Okay, there's Brent Venables talking after the game. K-Mac, you were there standing next to him. Did he seem particularly frustrated? There was a point in the game after I think it was after the defense, after they gave up the fake punt, where he was pretty animated on the sideline getting after his guys. Did he seem that way? Did he seem frustrated to you in the conversation?
I don't know if frustrated is the right word, but he was definitely not happy. He wasn't happy during the game. And what he's concerned about is the fact that his guys aren't getting better. And he said that's everybody. He said it gets back to him, the coaches, the players, but they aren't getting better. And he wants them to get back to striving to get better and getting motivated and fired up. And he said they're trying to get to the end instead of going every single play hard the way they were early in the season. And they've had some big games. You're coming off the Florida State game, but Florida State gassed them a little bit. NC State put a big number up on them.
I mean, they are giving up big plays.
Yeah, three weeks in a row, they've had some issues stopping some people, and he's not happy about it.
Something else about Clemson's performance, and I mean, look, a win on the road's a win. You take it. But after they put those early touchdowns up, they didn't score a second-half touchdown, correct? It was all field goals in the second half?
Yeah, they didn't score at all in the third quarter. First time that's happened since the Notre Dame game in a quarter.
Okay. I'm not saying any red flags need to go up about Clemson, but you're talking getting into the playoffs and winning a national championship, and they've got to fix that issue with the big plays.
John, what was the biggest problem on the third downs in the first half?
Not getting off the field.
Downs in the first half. First half.
Now back to Sports Talk, South Carolina's most listened to sports talk show for more than 30 years.
Okay, we're back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. 800-956-7266 is the phone number. Insects and diseases can be moved hundreds of miles in firewood and threaten our forests, favorite campsites, neighborhoods, state, and national parks. Help protect the trees you love by purchasing firewood at or near where you burn it. For more information, visit don'tmovefirewood.org. 800-956-7266 is the number if you want to join in on the conversation tonight. Question or comment or observation, more than happy to take it on. Plus, looking ahead to USC and Clemson in a couple of weeks, we'll start talking about that and give you some ideas about how the game might play out and some things that USC and Clemson might do in the game. No reason now not to go ahead and start looking ahead to that particular ball game. The Gamecocks on Saturday against Florida hung right in there and hung in there because their defense played. This is the puzzling thing. I mean, their defense was not blown away by any means. They gave up too many third down conversions. They let the quarterback have too much time to throw the ball, and he had a good day throwing it. They did give up a 100-yard rushing game, but only because they gave up a 53-yarder late in the ball game. Otherwise, they had pretty much contained Florida's running game. They just could not get off the field on third down. They let Florida, for example, complete a 15-yard pass on 3rd and 11, a 41-yard pass on a 3rd and 11, a 9-yard pass on a 3rd and 8. They had the knack, Florida did, for converting third down, and the Gamecocks had trouble getting them off the field, and that eventually cost them. Here's John Hoke taking questions after the game and talking about that very situation.
John, what was the biggest problem on the third downs in the first half?
Not getting off the field, not executing, not making a play. I mean, it's pretty obvious we didn't get off on some of them. But we tried about everything. We pressured. We played zone. We played man. We had a tough time putting pressure on the quarterback, whether we blitzed him, whether we zone blitzed him, whether we man blitzed him, or whether we rushed with 4. It was just we were inconsistent. And it makes it tough to get off the field when you're not executing the way you need to.
John, on that same, you played pretty well on first and second down, and give up a long third down. How frustrating is that on the sideline?
Oh, it's very frustrating because they're working hard. You know, you feel for the players as much as anything else. I mean, they're busting their butt. They're working on first and second down, and then we get the third down. You know, we're letting them off the hook. We don't either contain the quarterback and he gets out on the edge, or we're not playing the zone exactly correct, or we get out leveraged in man coverage. It was always just a detail on every third down that was getting us. And it was unfortunate because they were doing a tremendous job on first and second down.
Yeah, John Hoke. Now South Carolina, after that game, the Gamecocks defensively on third down, they are 106th in the country. However, they can they can brag about that in the meeting rooms, because on offense in that category, getting a first down on third down, offensively, the Gamecocks are 107th. So they are 106th on defense, 107th on offense on third downs.
But notice how interesting it is when you look in the fourth quarter, when somehow a light came on, that the guys started playing with a sense of urgency. And even though Florida may have had receivers open, they couldn't get the ball to them because you rushed in and you rushed the quarterback to make a quick decision. When they back up in that zone, you letting the guy have too much time to make a decision.
When you look ahead to Clemson, if they let Deshaun Watson stand back there and get comfortable, I mean, he will pick them apart. They've got to play Clemson kind of like they played Florida. They've got to bring pressure, and Hope dialed up pressure a lot. And you're right, Pro, when he didn't dial up pressure, their front four can't get away from the offensive lineman and cannot get in the face of the quarterback.
Watson's he's by far the best quarterback they faced.
Will
all
Clemson
season.
score
50? I'd put the
I was
over
going
under.
to say 70.
Well, yeah, I'd take the under. They're not going to score 70, but they could score 50 because Clemson will be dialed in for that game. It'll be the final game of the regular season. They won't be peeking ahead to the ACC championship. They haven't won at Williams-Brice Stadium in a long time.
Jeff Scott will be trying to send a message to Tom Herman.
Jeff Scott will probably be texting Tom Herman at halftime saying, look at the score. You don't want to come here. Remember what I was telling you before? Don't come here. That's just going to be bad. I think South Carolina fans know it. It's interesting. I was leaving Syracuse yesterday, and, of course, again, on the plane with nothing but Tiger fans essentially leaving town, and they were all already talking about the fact that they're going to take over Williams-Brice Stadium. That's the plan. And they said tickets, they're already having no problem scooping up the tickets. And he said, you wait, you look at the East stands, it is going to be full of orange.
I tell you what, there was a lot of blue and orange in those same stands Saturday from Florida. Yeah, you're right. And that should be the Gamecock fans' worst nightmare, too. Back in a moment. All right, to the recruiting reports for tonight. Defensive end Sedarius Hutcherson of Huntington, Tennessee, plans to be at USC Saturday. He's got the Gamecocks #1 on his list. He's not ruling out the possibility of committing while in Columbia on Saturday. He wanted to take his visit first before making a commitment. He's been in touch with Sean Elliott, and he believes that Elliott wants him to join the Gamecocks. He said that Elliott has told him they would take his commitment. He said that he said he hopes Elliott ends up as the head coach at the end of the day. He really likes him, thinks he can put him on the right track. But he said, my plan is commit this month. He said, if I'm really excited during the visit, I could commit, or it could come later in the month so I can make sure I'm straight with my family. He's also looking at Tennessee, Arizona State, Memphis, Louisville, Massachusetts, and Illinois. Also thinking about visits to Tennessee and Memphis soon, but he said USC is the clear favorite. He has 45 tackles and 6 sacks on the season. Clemson in strong shape with offensive lineman Tremaine Ankrum of Powder Springs, Georgia, following 2 visits for games, including Florida State. He has also taken official visits to Nebraska and Colorado. He's completed taking all of his visits. A decision from him is coming up soon. He said the Clemson visit was his last one. Talked to Sweeney and enjoyed talking to him and seeing the offensive line, and he liked the players as well. He likes Robbie Caldwell a lot too. He says he loves that man. He's a great coach, he said. So Clemson's in good shape here with a decision coming in the not-too-distant future. 2017 quarterback Chase Bryce of Loganville, Georgia, made an unofficial to USC Saturday for the Florida game. Clemson, Georgia, Alabama, Missouri, some of his other offers. He's been to Clemson several times. Tigers appear to be in good shape with him. Clemson also showing interest in defensive back Demetrius Mason of Loganville. He was at Clemson for the Florida State game. They've not yet offered. 2017 defensive end Jonathan McCollister of Orlando plans to be at Clemson Saturday. Linebacker P.J. Blue of Montgomery, Alabama, a former USC commitment, told the Clemson Insider he plans to be back at Clemson Saturday. He was at the Florida State game. The Tigers are recruiting him for safety. Defensive end Michael McDaniel, Loganville, Georgia, was at USC Saturday. Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, Auburn among his offers. Receiver Dre Massey of Holmes Junior College, Mississippi, going to Auburn December 12th. He was offered by Auburn Sunday. He also has visits coming up with Oklahoma, Florida, and USC. 2 USC commitments, defensive back J.J. Gibbons and running back C.J. Freeman, will go to Wisconsin this coming weekend. Freeman was at USC for Florida. Iowa commitment, defensive back K.J. Sales of Florida was at USC Saturday. Tight end Jordan Ghiberti of Gainesville, Florida, was at USC Saturday as well. USC commitment receiver Kelvin Harmon, Palmyra, New Jersey, says he remains firmly committed to the Gamecocks. Fort Dorchester offensive lineman John Simpson was at LSU over the weekend. R&E linebacker T.J. Brunson was at USC Saturday, remains committed to Louisville, but is still thinking about the Gamecocks as well. Top of the hour break. We'll be back.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Okay, we're back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, here on a Monday night. Good to have you with us. Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, Professor Tom Hayes, all together. 800-956-7266 is the number. Want to wrap up recruiting. Had a couple of women's basketball notes to give you. USC announced the signing of 5'6" point guard Arayan Bradshaw from Hyde Park, Massachusetts, a top 35 recruit, apparently. And the Clemson women signed 5'9" Jaia. Would that be Jaya?
Mm-hmm.
Jaya Alexander, Towson, Maryland. 5'8" Sienna Fields of Long Beach, California. And, this looks like you, K-Mac. 6'2" Kobe Thornton of Cuthbert, Georgia. So Clemson women, they've got their Kobe. Congratulations. Also, 6'4" Tori McCoy, Champaign, Illinois, highly rated player who visited USC over the weekend, signed with Ohio State today. So just to show you that we are balanced in our recruiting coverage, not chauvinistic, not male pigs, giving you the women's recruiting as well.
So
by the way, did you see, two things in women's basketball that caught my eye over the weekend. Coastal Carolina on Friday night opened their season, and they beat a team, if I remember the name correctly, Mid-Atlantic Christian, by a final score, if I remember correctly, 114-15. And they forced 43 turnovers.
And what was the Citadel score?
Now, this is men, yeah. Citadel and Butler. Butler scored 144 points on the Citadel the other day.
Now, 71 points.
105-15. Thank you, State Man.
73 in the second half.
Yeah, that's consistency. 800-956-7266 is the phone number. Email at sportstalksc.com. We got a lot of email to get to, and so we'll run through some of that for you as well, plus more from our coverage of USC and Clemson over the weekend. By the way, the new rankings for the playoff will not come out tomorrow night until 9:30 because ESPN has a basketball game scheduled at 7 o'clock. And so they're going to hold the rankings, I guess, until after that basketball game. It's a good game. It's
only
Duke
Kentucky and Duke would jam up a football.
That's a nice early season basketball battle. So they're going to hold the rankings until then. But I would expect that Clemson will remain number one. I don't think there's any doubt about that. Alabama will stay number 2, Ohio State and Notre Dame. Did either one do anything? Ohio State was pretty dominant over Illinois, so I think they'll probably stay 3. I don't think they'll move past Alabama. That was an impressive win by Alabama. The question is, anybody on that committee have the guts to move Alabama ahead of Clemson?
Not yet.
Somebody might.
Not yet. I'd move Arkansas the way it looked against LSU.
10-point win at Syracuse versus the way Alabama went to Starkville and beat Mississippi State. We'll see. Back in a moment. Okay, we're back. It is Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Hey, if you want more from your education, Palmetto College offers the quality of a 4-year education online. And to find out more, visit palmettocollege.sc.edu. With Palmetto College, your future has no limits. Quick note then to your phone calls we go on this Monday night. Florida State has announced it has completed filling out its 2016 schedule with Charleston Southern on September 10th, 2016. Charleston Southern will make $475,000 for that game. So Florida State next year will play a non-conference schedule of Ole Miss, Charleston Southern, South Florida, and Florida. The Ole Miss game Labor Day, and that prompted the need to schedule an FCS team on a short week. And Charleston Southern said, we'll do it. We'll do it. Now they're playing Alabama this week, Charleston Southern. And, hey, Jamie Chadwell told us last week they're going to play to win until they realize they can't.
Yeah.
And then he'll take out his regulars because he's got the playoffs to worry about.
He does. Can we talk about the most important aspect of the South Carolina-Florida game now?
Which was?
The helmets.
I kind of liked them. Totally against
a rooster tail
tradition. Well, it's a Gamecock tail. It's a Gamecock. They're Gamecocks. They're not the USC Roosters. Okay,
look like a rooster tail.
They are the fighting.
Look like
Gamecocks.
A tail feather. I mean, I get it. You're trying to put a stamp on things and a different kind of brand, but you still, the block sees what you are. That's your school. That's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
You get away from it. Maybe you could do a tweak. There are different things you could have done if they would have come out in garnet helmets or something different. Florida has a different color helmet that they wear, and sometimes they have the one with the gator on it. Sometimes it says Gators, but I don't think you need to go that far outside. The bottom line is if you're watching that on television and you're looking at that and the sound's down, you're going, who is that team Florida's playing? You have no idea. Now, if you see the block C, you know who that is, but you just see that. Who is that?
The key point is,
are they going to do that again?
I think you're right.
They're going to wear those all year?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think that was just for that.
Kind of like, once Clemson lost in the orange pants, at least under Danny Ford, they were done. I think South Carolina was the first team to beat them in the orange pants.
I agree with K-Mac in this point. What differentiates a Gamecock from any other rooster? It's that spur. If you're going to blow up anything on the side of the helmet, it would have been the spur, not the tail feathers.
Somebody said it
this.
looked like a Gamecock with its head in the ground.
I prefer I didn't like what Spurrier did. He made the block smaller.
Mm-hmm.
I like what they had like back in the days of George Rogers and that crowd. They had a big block C and the bigger bird on the side of the helmet. You could really see it. With Spurrier, it seemed to be a little bit lost in the white of the helmet. But anyway, let's hit a couple of phone calls. 800-956-7266. And it's Short Run, who's made the run over to Alabama, joining us here on Sports Talk.
Spying on the enemy.
How you doing there, Short Run?
Moving forward, just out here riding out, about to get off in an hour. But anyway, a fella told me to tell you Friday night as far as you go.
Is that a fact?
Big Dog told me to tell you Friday night as far as you go.
We shall see. Upsets happen all the time in the high school playoffs. He's talking about my Latta Vikings taking on Bamberg Earhart. Yeah. I know we're big underdogs and nobody is picking us to win, but Cinderella pops up every now and then. We're going to see if the slipper fits.
Did Brooklyn Casey beat Hanahan, or who did they beat? Did it?
No. They upset somebody. Beat Hemingway.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I just want to say congratulations, Clemson, on that big old 10 win. And I'm got to move forward. Got to get off here and keep it moving. Y'all have a blessed day and safe travel.
You too, sir. Keep it between the white lines out there, as we say when you're on the highway.
Now, you sure he's not moonlighting as an operative to spy on Alabama while he's over there for Clemson?
Could be. Who knows? He might be trying to get some secret information. Back to the phones we go. Bryant in Lexington. Welcome into Sports Talk. How are you tonight?
Good, guys. Hey, a couple of things. Phil, you said a minute ago about that Alabama victory over LSU the weekend, and whether they might move past Clemson. My question is, are we going to forget how quickly we can forget every year about Alabama losing a game early in the season, but we seem to push it aside every year and give them a pass on losing that early game to a lesser opponent?
Yep.
That's one. But another thing I want to ask you, what do y'all think about Deshaun Watson's chances? Because they're talking to radio this morning about whether he might be. Some people say he wouldn't be an NFL quarterback because of the type of offense that they run, which I disagree. I don't know what y'all see about those two things, as well as giving the Murray War Eagles in Greeleyville for the single leg chance for the region in Lower State.
All right. Thank you very much. The Alabama thing, and they beat Mississippi State, not LSU this time. They beat LSU recently, 2 weeks ago. But you make a good point. Alabama, Notre Dame, teams that lose early, but they have the big names and the big reps, they are given a pass for their loss.
Ohio State.
Yeah. If Clemson were to lose to South Carolina, a road game, let's say they lost a field goal on the last play of the game. Now, you are playing your rival. You are playing on the road, but that probably would knock them out of the playoff.
Yes.
And is that fair that Alabama, with a loss, was given the pass with their loss? They lost at home to Ole Miss, and they lost by more than a field goal.
Ole Miss has been a top 25 team for a good chunk of this season. Not all losses are created equal.
I agree.
Losing to a 3-7 team.
When you weigh home, and you were favored, Alabama was favored,
and when you lose, I mean, that's the way that the game is played in college football. Not all losses are created equal. And number two, the time of a loss, when you lose early, when you lose at the end of the year, when it's crunch time, so to speak, those losses are more costly. A loss in November is going to hurt you more than a loss in September, but no matter who it is against.
It shouldn't. That's what I'm saying.
A loss to South Carolina, if Clemson loses to a 3-7 South Carolina team, they do not deserve to be in the playoff.
If you went strictly with computers,
a computer would knock them out.
How? They wouldn't know.
The computers
would
would
know
do
the date. They wouldn't. You don't put the date. They wouldn't know the date. All they would have.
Well,
is
the computers,
data.
the polling came into play in the computers, and they would know that Clemson dropped from 1 to 10 or worse.
No, you wouldn't. The computers create the polling.
The BCS ranking.
Polling would not go into the computer.
At the last week of the season in the BCS rankings,
you
would lose your spot
element
at the top
of the BCS. I'm saying take humans out of it. Go strictly with computers. Put the data in. You put no data in that would be that would show any sort of preferential treatment in terms of a date or anything like that. They just know that Clemson finished the season.
Why do we want
10-1
artificial
and Alabama
intelligence
finished
determining
10-1?
this? Why can't you use data
because
from
human
computers?
Intelligence sometimes isn't fair.
Life isn't fair. There isn't a perfect fair system.
Would you get Dr. Phil on line
Goodness
one?
gracious! I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. You're telling me if Clemson loses to a 3-7 South Carolina team,
the Gamecocks will be 4-7.
Now they're 3-7.
They'll be 4-7.
Once
they'll beat Citadel.
Okay,
they'll beat Citadel.
Okay, if you say so.
Can they play the option?
Yeah.
No offense, Bulldogs.
I could see the Citadel. I watched South Carolina struggle.
I'm
A pretty
saying
good South Carolina team struggle to beat Wofford once.
If South Carolina kicks a field goal on the final play of the game to beat Clemson by a point,
Clemson does not deserve to be in the playoff. Because playoff teams,
but Alabama with a loss by more than that at home.
Ole Miss is a much better team than South Carolina.
Way home versus away.
It doesn't matter home versus away. South Carolina.
Then why do you get extra from Vegas when you're home? Home field doesn't.
Well, my point is losing
Clemson,
to South Carolina is bad. I mean, you're going to compare losing to South Carolina, one of the worst teams in the SEC, losing to the worst team in the SEC as opposed to losing to an upper echelon.
Ole Miss is better than South Carolina.
Much better.
But they played them at home and they got beat by what? They got beat by 10 points.
And Clemson's still ranked ahead of them right now.
We'll be back in a minute. Yeah, you can cite all the data you want. I still say it's unfair to penalize a team more harshly for losing the last weekend of the season if they lose at the end of the game on a field goal or a Hail Mary than it is to compared to a team that lost in September. You know, Alabama lost to Ole Miss by 6 at home. All right. Now, by losing early, they have a chance to rebound. But a loss on November 28th should not carry more weight than a loss back on September 28th.
Yeah, but the thing is, you have time to. They both really affect you the same way. You drop it just as far. The difference is if it happens the last week of the season, you don't have time to make the ground back up. A loss should affect you, and the difference is when you lose in September, you have the rest of that month in October, November to get your footing back underneath. You beat some other teams and move up. If you lose the last week of the season, you don't have anybody else to play.
Here's the other thing.
What are you going to do?
You should be a team that's ready to play, playing your best ball at the end of the season. If you give them any indication that you have flawed at the end of the season, which is why Brent Venables is telling the defense, hey, guys, let's go. We're not improving, because he knows they have to constantly improve to show the people that, look, our team is a complete team. We're going to play. If they show any chink in the armor, they may drop from number one anyway.
And it hurts you. Those losses hurt you equally in the polls. The difference is you just don't have time to make up for it. If Clemson lost to South Carolina week 1, they would drop just like they would if they lost them in the last week. The difference is if they lost them in week 1, they would have the rest of the season to potentially win 11 in a row and make it back up. That's that.
Right, let me ask you this.
All losses are created equal in that regard.
Hypothetically speaking, Alabama's undefeated, and Auburn is where they are this year. And Alabama, let's say they were to lose to Auburn by 3 points in the Iron Bowl.
Goodbye, Alabama.
So you think the committee would just sweep them out? Even though Alabama, let's just say they didn't affect their ability to go to the SEC championship game. We got to remember, too, now these championship games come into play.
Yeah, and maybe that will be an opportunity for them to beat Florida and get it back, depending on how far they drop. But if you lose to an unranked team the last week of the season, depending on what happens with those other teams, that are trying to fight to get in there, everybody knows you have a very small margin for error in college football, and that thing gets smaller as the season moves along. The further along you get, as I think Dabo Sweeney likes to say, that air, the altitude, the higher you get, the air gets thinner, and that's just the way it works. And I mean, to me, it's not unfair. That's just the way.
I think it is. I just it's.
How do you fix that?
Clemson's not going to lose.
You don't drop them.
Right? I'll give you that.
You don't think they should drop if they do? You say, Alabama lost, so they don't drop them.
I can't get the rationale between a team that has a loss getting in.
When Alabama lost, they dropped.
You don't think that Ohio State that lost at home in Columbus, first game of the season against a bad Virginia Tech team, and that was not the same team we saw at the end of the season.
And if they would have lost to that same Virginia Tech team at the end of the season, they wouldn't have had time to make that comeback.
But you can't penalize a team more for simply losing the last game.
You're penalized the same. You just don't have time to make it up. You're penalized the exact same.
That's the point.
We did pretty good. We had a lot of mistakes. We did pretty good. We had a lot of mistakes. We did pretty good. We had a lot. We did pretty good. We had a lot of mistakes.
never sleep. Check them out on the web at sportstalksc.com. Now, more of Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network.
All right, back on Sports Talk. Deshaun Watson coming up in a moment. Also, we'll catch up with David Shelton and some high school talk here on a Monday edition of Sports Talk presented by South Carolina soybean farmers and their checkoff. Learn more at scsoybeans.org. Pork powered by soy. K-Mac brings up an interesting thought here talking during the break. Really, let's say Clemson runs the table 12-0, regular season, number one in the ranking, et cetera. What's the incentive for Clemson to play in the ACC championship game? There's nothing, absolutely nothing for them to gain for playing in that championship game other than the ACC trophy, especially, as Pro mentioned during the break, Notre Dame, which is also at this point in the playoff, does not have a championship game to play in, so they don't have that risk. It's a risk.
Yeah.
If Clemson plays North Carolina in that ACC championship game, it is a risk for Clemson in terms of the national championship.
If they lost that game, they could
But that
fall
goes
out.
back to my point. It's unfair to penalize Clemson, a 12-0 Clemson that loses in the ACC championship game, and then you delete them from the national.
Well, you
playoff.
might not be deleted. I mean, they could still not fall all the way out of the top four.
I guarantee
a
you
loss.
they would lose.
A loss
They would
is
lose
going.
out.
A loss is going to hurt you no matter when you have it. That's the point. You say it's not. You act like these losses in the beginning of the season, they can eliminate you too. And teams do get those early season losses can come back to haunt you and keep you out. So
Ask Stanford.
It's win and you're in regardless.
Well,
but
I think
not
the
all
committee
losses
should look at a team. Let's just say they lost to South Carolina. They should look at a team that went 11-0 and then loses on the road in the final seconds to their rival. And not. I understand you got to drop them, but I wouldn't drop them out of the top four.
If Clemson loses to this South Carolina team,
Mm-hmm.
now I could get it if
They
if
played
it was
LSU
a top
to the last few minutes. That played Texas A&M to the last few minutes. That played Tennessee the last few minutes. All on the road.
South Carolina,
they're
is
a handicapped South
They're
Carolina.
the worst team in the SEC. They are the worst
beat
team.
Vanderbilt.
They Vanderbilt's ahead of them
They
in the
beat
standings.
Vanderbilt head-to-head.
South Carolina is the
They
last
beat
place team in the Southeastern
They
Conference.
beat Vanderbilt.
14 out of 14. Okay, Vanderbilt won more SEC games than South Carolina.
They beat them head-to-head. Head-to-head answers all questions.
So if you don't think that loss is worthy of knocking a team out of the playoff, then I mean all these other teams that are 5, 6, 7 that don't have those kind of losses.
I'm just saying,
Baylor if their only loss is against Oklahoma.
If loss to South Carolina, Clemson should not be over.
Well, as you say, the computer won't know the time, so they still drop.
All right, quickly back to the phones we go. Mark and Aiken, welcome in. How are you, sir?
Hey, Phil, how you guys doing? Listen, I just want to say this. First of all, let me say, I love the show. I think you, K-Mac Pro, I agree with y'all 99%. But let me say this. It's just my opinion.
Sure.
It's a double standard. It's a double standard. I don't care what anybody – if Clemson goes in there to Carolina and it's a fluke loss, 1 or 2 points, as Mark May pointed out on ESPN, fluke losses don't count. So if it's a fluke loss and they go in there and lose that game by 1 or 2 points, but blister North Carolina in the ACC championship game, it better not be below 4. They better not be below 4.
And they might not. They might not.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
But according to them, now the ACC would be the weakest conference out of the Power 5, so they would drop them, and Notre Dame would just slip right up in there. I mean, I'm just saying, it's a double standard. That's just my opinion. But a fluke loss is a loss. A loss is a loss. A win is a win. There's no pictures in the scorebook, and you're in that playoff based on what you have looked like, not what your opponents. I mean, they better not drop past 4. That's just my opinion. Y'all have a great night. Thanks for the phone call.
I mean, they might not, but you have to take into account what these other teams right behind them are doing. If if Baylor and I know they lost last week, but Oklahoma only has 1 loss now. If they fall into that lump of with a lot of other teams with 1 loss, and they're going to look at the body of work and say, well, Baylor's only loss was against a top 10 Oklahoma team.
At home.
It does okay at
It
home.
has to matter.
But
Home matters.
But so does playing a top 10 team as opposed to the worst team in the SEC. Okay, that matters too.
On the road, look, I'm describing
you keep saying the
particular
rivalry
situation.
Yeah, but South Carolina's awful.
It'd have to be a fluke loss.
It'd be an awful loss.
It'd have to be a fluke loss. I'm talking a fluke loss. Now, if South Carolina would have beat
what's
them
a
by
fluke
2
loss?
touchdowns,
If you're a 30-point favorite and you lose,
a Hail Mary where South Carolina
you're
got the
a
ball last and they throw it 60
favorite
yards and
and
it's tipped up in the air and it's batted up in the
You
air.
never
that means
should
you
have
screwed
put it in
around.
that
Pharaoh
position.
Cooper called
you
it,
screwed around.
and they scored the touchdown.
How'd
to
you
win.
get in that position?
Fluke. I'm
you
talking
played
fluke.
bad.
You know what a fluke is. Okay, you know what a fluke
But
is.
you lose
For
because
example,
you got beat.
It's a fluke you have this job. You know what a fluke is.
Right, it's a fluke.
Okay.
No, but here's the fluke. There are 28 points.
Outside of taking personal shots at me, I'm still waiting for you to make the point.
If you're a 28-point favorite and you lose on a fluke loss, you drop.
Okay,
period.
drop 2 spots. They should still be no worse than 4. I can see not number 1.
What, you don't know what the other teams
4.
are doing behind them.
Drop to. I say you still keep them in the 4.
Because
no matter what, I don't care what anybody does.
11 in a row to get there.
Isn't Oklahoma State still undefeated? See, that'll scare you. Right there is Oklahoma State.
No, they should still be in the top 4. Even though Oklahoma State's undefeated, they had a fluke loss, bro. At the end of the season, it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter.
They're
fluke
not
loss.
in the top 4.
You know what a fluke is, pro? Do you know what a fluke is,
it's
pro?
It's a fluke that pro has a job here too. All right, I got to get to David Shelton here.
You just looked in the mirror, by the way.
It's a fluke that I'm still around. I'll give you that. It's time for our high school football report tonight here on Sports Talk, brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. With new auto insurance rates from Farm Bureau, you could save a whole lot of money, even if you've received a quote before. Rates are now more competitive than ever. Get a free quote today from your local Farm Bureau Insurance agent. We welcome in David Shelton, High School Sports Report, Charleston Post, and Courier. All right, everybody now in the playoffs. What'd you think of the pairings in 4A? Some games really jump out at you for this first round coming up?
Not really. I mean, Gaffney Burns is a pretty good first round matchup just based on the tradition of the two programs. For them to be playing early is kind of interesting. I think, I mean, I may be in the minority in this, but I think Spring Valley as a 15 could give Fort Dorchester a little bit of a problem with that option offense. Fort doesn't see it very often. They did see it one time against Cane Bay and won by 1 point and probably shouldn't have won the game. I think Boiling Springs going on the road to Ashley Ridge. I think Boiling Springs can win that game in an upset. Dorman going to West Ashley, which is a team that has never hosted a playoff game in the history of their school. And getting Dorman, a big-time program to come in there, that one has some interesting. We'll see how West Ashley handles that hoopla and pressure. And Dorman hasn't been great this year. They've been good, but they've been beaten a couple times and been beaten soundly a few times. So, I think in the 4A brackets, I look for things kind of go. There could be an upset here or there just because in 4A a lot of teams are even, but I look for the favorites to win in most cases. And, there will be an upset. Somebody, a higher seed will be a lower seed. I mean, it's going to happen. I don't know who that's going to be, but it always happens. We had a couple of them last week in the AAA and AA playoffs where lower seeded teams beat higher seeded teams. So, you're talking about 16, 17-year-old kids. So crazy things can happen.
Sure. Looking at Division II and Spartanburg, the 1 seed, Northwestern, the 2 seed. You see many hurdles for either one to get to the championship game against each other?
Well, to follow the pattern of your recent conversation, it would be a fluke if those two did not get there. They're the 2 favorite teams, and again, crazy things happen. But I would say, and I'm not a betting guy, but if I were, I would bet on those 2 to meet and win price because they're 2 of the class teams in all of 4A. And quite honestly, the Division II bracket is much more interesting and appealing with maybe overall better teams than the Division I bracket, which, you kind of lay down about 3 or 4 teams in Division I, and one of those is going to win it.
All right, real quick, in 5 seconds, all the other playoff games Friday, what's your favorite game?
Lakeview Cross, believe it or not. I think that's going to be a real key classic game.
All right, Lakeview and Cross. Likes that matchup. Thank you, David Shelton, High School Sports Report. Back in a moment.
Mariota, hands under center. 7-0 Carolina. Second down and 10. Mariota, it's the flip. Left side. And what a vicious hit at the 15-yard line. Shaq Thompson. Third down and goal from the 2-yard line. Newton in the shotgun. Newton's going to run it himself. Extends the ball for the end zone. Touchdown.
Well, they say the fun is in the winning. Sounds like everybody with the Panthers organization is having fun right now. The voice of the Panthers, Mick Mixon, joins us. Panthers a 27-10 winner at Tennessee yesterday. Great weekend in Nashville. Great place to visit. Great place to go win a football game. Mick, very solid performance once again by the Panthers. I believe you're, one of 3 unbeatens left?
Cincinnati and New England are the other two. Cincinnati's got Houston tonight, Corn, and the Panthers kind of checked another box, I think, on Sunday. I'd be interested in your and the guys' opinion on this, but it seemed to me as though we've known for several years now that the Panthers are pretty good at handling adversity, but how could they handle high expectations going on the road as a prohibitive favorite against the Tennessee Titans team with a very good defense and anxious to win number 2 in a row for a new coach, Mike Mularkey? And it was pretty businesslike. It was a tough game early on. It seemed like it was 14-10 for a while. But then the Panthers finally surged ahead in the third quarter and ended the game with the offense on the field kneeling it out, which was refreshing.
Yeah. No Mularkey for the Panthers yesterday in Nashville.
Oh, no. Oh, my God.
Now, you have called every snap of Cam Newton's professional career. 21 of 26, 217, a touchdown, no picks yesterday. Ran the ball when he had to. I mean, do you just see him getting better and better each game, considering where he started from as a pro quarterback?
Definitely, Cornyn. I'm working on an article tonight. I'm just sitting here at my desk at work working on an article for the Game Time magazine, and what I'm writing it about is Cam Newton, the one and only original. I mean, 100 years from now, all NFL quarterbacks may look like this, but in 2015, none of them do. And in the history of this game, none of them ever have. I mean, you help me with my article. Am I missing something? I mean, Vince Young, Dante Culpepper, Randall Cunningham, Warren Moon, Steve Young. There have been great runners. There have been great throwers. There have been great scramblers. But who else has combined this size, this flair, this ability to run and throw?
Did you think Michael Vick at all?
Well, except Vic was six feet tall, 200, and Cam 6'5", 245.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And Mick, I know you taught Cam that dab dance that he does when he scores touchdowns now. That looked like that's a Mick Mixon move right there.
Well, when I hear the words dab, I start thinking about the head coach at Clemson. I really had to get educated today, a crash course in pop culture. But apparently all the kids are doing it, and Cam's not engendering any ill will. He doesn't mean a thing. He just has got that Brett Favre, Jake Delhomme-like exuberance for the game. He's handing the ball to little kids in the stands. You know, it's not taunting or anything. It's just kind of Cam being Cam, and I think it's playing well.
Yeah, I loved that, and then I love the fact that, you know, the Titans, if you don't like it, stop them. You know, that's what you do. And then he did it a couple more times. That, to me, watching that play out, it was a lot of, I mean, that's why you watch the NFL, that kind of competition and pageantry.
Mick, when you carry out the story on Cam Newton, I think people have to know that a year ago, well, what are the Panthers doing? They got rid of all of his receivers. Then Benjamin steps up. Then this year, Benjamin goes down. That was supposed to be his Linus blanket. Well, he's gone. So, you know, apparently he's maturing at a quarterback because weapons keep moving on. Steve Smith, Benjamin, and this guy's still getting it done.
I agree with you, Pro. Cam Newton called a play. He checked to a play on Sunday against Tennessee that was not on the play sheet. It was not in the game plan. But he got up to the line of scrimmage and saw how the defense had aligned itself and just went off script and changed the play, changed it to an explosive play, and the Panthers notched a big gainer. Coach Rivera was talking about that earlier this afternoon. I was listening to him talk about it, and he said it's just part of how this young man has grown with his confidence, his maturity, and his command of this offense.
Okay, Redskins coming up next, and all of a sudden, I think they found a little something at quarterback.
Well, here's what happens. They played the Saints, and the Saints defense strikes confidence in the hearts of every quarterback. We just had to deal with that this week. I mean, my golly, Marcus Mariota had just carved the Saints up. The Saints are on pace to set a new record for defensive passing touchdowns allowed. Let's hope that continues when the Panthers go to the Mercedes-Benz Superdome.
Yeah, you'll be facing a new defensive coordinator because they just fired their defensive coordinator.
Have they officially done it now?
Yeah, they officially announced it. So thank you, Mick. We appreciate it very much. The Panthers. Boy, what a year in football in the state of North Carolina. The Tar Heels getting it done. The Panthers getting it done. Mick Mixon's got to be beside himself with ecstasy with his two favorite teams. That's right, Mick. I said it. Your two favorite teams having a good year. Thanks again to Mick Mixon for being with us here on Sports Talk. In a moment, a couple of comments from Deshaun Watson. Whether you're a Gamecock or a Tiger, all South Carolina college football fans can agree on Founders Federal Credit Union. With a convenient location on USC's campus and a Clemson office that's coming soon, Founders is a sure fan favorite. Visit RelaxJoinFounders.com to see if you qualify for membership. Deshaun Watson had another marvelous performance in the win at Syracuse on Saturday. He rushed for 105 yards, and what did he pass for?
360.
He passed for 360.
Passed
so another
for 2 TDs,
big
ran for another
performance. He's, I think, 15th in the country in total offense. Here he is after the ball game talking about getting the win and his performance.
We did pretty good. We had a lot of mistakes. Penalties, turnovers, and just little things that were stopping us. We were really just stopping ourselves. So, just get back, on Monday and correct those mistakes and, protect the ball more, and then, we'll be just fine.
A little surprised that Syracuse came back from 14-zip. First few minutes of the game looked like a blowout, and they showed a lot. Did they show more fight than you thought they were going to show?
Not at all, because I knew that, they had some guys that, wanted this win and wanted to prove themselves. And, we knew that they weren't going to come up here, or we weren't going to come up here and just walk through and, get the big win. We knew we had to work for it and earn it. So, credit to, those coaching staff and those players, fighting hard. They came out and was pushing us, and, they fought to the end. So, they get a lot of credit for that.
consider what they were doing, sometimes bringing 5, sometimes 6. Do you feel comfortable putting the offense on your shoulders and saying, just kind of depend on you?
I'm always comfortable with that. That's basically what I'm doing. Being a quarterback for this offense, you got to take control and lead the guys and put us in the right position. And that's what I do. And each and every game is a new challenge, and we just got to keep moving forward.
The first pass play.
All right, Deshaun Watson from Syracuse. Other day, USC leading Oral Roberts 14-12, 8:17 to play in the half. Cassius Thornwell, 4 points each. Neither team shooting it well. A lot of clunkers up there, 32% for the Gamecocks, 25% for Oral Roberts, which takes us to our final call of the night. Speaking of clunkers, it's Cockett. Cockett, how are you? Welcome into the program.
How you doing? Let me say this real quick. I know your Packers are down and my Cowboys are down.
Wait a second. Wait a second. Hang on. The Cowboys. You can bring it back up now. I just had to get that off my chest. Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. The Panthers are playing good football. We all know that. But when it comes to the playoffs? Look for the Packers. Hit on the Panthers. Okay, when it comes to the playoff time, look for your big green to take them out to go to the Super Bowl. They ain't got but one weapon, and that's Cam. You take away Cam, they got nothing else.
Easier said than done. And don't be sucking up to me by suggesting the Packers are going to.
Well, if they do it, they'll have to do it in Bank of America Stadium.
This I know. We have dug ourselves a little bit of a hole, but we got to bounce back against the Vikings on Sunday in Minneapolis. Thanks for being with us. Have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow.